This is the Defenders podcast on TV Podcast Industries, and we're talking about Hawkeye, Episode 3, Echoes. Coes.
You know, it comes with a price.
What does?
This life you want to live, to really help people, really try to help people anyway, comes a lot of sacrifices and some things you'll lose. Remember?
No, there's also things you gain. Like trick arrows and a cool costume.
Welcome back, fellow Defenders, to Episode 3 of Hawkeye, Echoes. This is the Defenders podcast on TV Podcast Industries, and I am one of your hosts, John.
And I'm one of your hosts, John. Sorry, no, you weren't asking me to echo. I am Chris.
Welcome back, fellow Defenders. I am your third host, Derek. I've still got a sore throat, or I got a sore throat, because spoilers for our Wheel of Time podcast, which we recorded earlier in the week. I had a sore throat for that one. Because they're being released in the opposite order, it will sound like I'm getting worse, but I am getting better. My voice sounds better today, doesn't it, guys, than it did on Wheel of Time?
Yes.
Yes.
Good. So,
question mark?
If our fellow Defenders, or fellow Wheelies, as our Wheel of Time listeners are known, if they're listening to these episodes in the order of release, it'll sound like I'm getting worse. I just want to make sure you know I'm feeling better.
Excellent. Well, as long as you are, that is perfect.
There you go.
You're looking worse, but that's a different story altogether.
Chris, every single day I'm alive, I look worse than the day before. It's called aging.
Yeah, I was going to say.
But welcome back, fellow Defenders, to this spoiler-filled discussion of Hawkeye Episode 3. Remember, you can head on over to our website at tvpodcastindustries.com, where you can subscribe to the podcast on any good or evil podcast player of your choice. And of course, please send in any feedback through email to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com or over on our group at facebook.com/groups/TV Podcast Industries, where there are spoiler-filled posts where you just leave your lovely thoughts, theories, comments, you name it, in the comment section below.
Yes, and of course, if you're over on Instagram and you listen to us on Spotify, and we are in your Spotify top listens, why not let us know. Show off your proud Defender status as basically being in your top 5 because you listen to us review, discuss, dissect, theorize, randomize, sing, murdering the singing. But yes, just let us know on Instagram at TV Pod Industries.
Absolutely, yeah. We've been getting some end of year lists sent to us over on Twitter and over on Instagram already. Been really, really nice to see our wonderful listeners get our TV Podcast Industries up in their top 5 podcasts of the year. That's been really cool. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Great stuff. But let's do what we're here for and get into our spoiler-filled discussion of Episode 3 of Hawkeye, Echoes. Derek.
Echoes.
What are some of the episode details?
Yes, this series is based predominantly on the comic book series by Matt Fraction and David Ayer. And the executive producer of the show, the showrunner in Marvel terminology, is Jonathan Igla. This episode was written by Katrina Mathewson and Tanner Bean. They are a writing partnership and both executive story editors on the series of this show. This is the first episode that they've got a writing credit for Hawkeye, but they've worked on loads of shows before, including Christmas movies and a TV show called Pitch as well. So they've been writing together for many, many years.
Good stuff. I haven't heard of Pitch. So welcome, Katrina and Tanner, to my writing library, I guess.
There you go. Yeah, really interesting that they've been writing together on multiple shows before, and having two people that in the writing seat for this episode. Really interesting because the episode is pretty much a two-hander between Kate Bishop and Clint Barton. Most of the series is. And what makes it interesting as well is the directors of the episode, Bert and Bertie, are also two directing partners who've worked together on many shows in the past, including the TV show The Great. So, really interesting. They've got two writing partners in the writing chair and two directing partners in the directing chair.
Did you almost say Bert and Ernie?
That's literally where my head went.
Because that would have been awesome if Bertie could have changed his name by default. But then maybe there's trademark or copyright issues.
I don't think either of them would want to change the name to Bert and Ernie.
I will call out a fantastic film by Bert and Bertie called Troop Zero, which has the very funny Jim Gaffigan in it. And it was on, I think it was Hulu, but I know definitely in the wider kind of international spaces, it was available on Amazon Prime.
Okay.
So it may still be there if you have Amazon Prime at the moment and you're watching Wheel of Time. Check it out. But Troop Zero, very funny. Very, very funny.
Interesting. I'll have to go and check that out. John, do you want to tell us what they gave us with your synopsis for episode 3 of Hawkeye, Echoes?
Sure. In 2007, a young Maya Lopez is learning to live in a world without hearing. Growing up, she is supported by her father as he encourages her to jump between the two worlds of the hearing and the signing. But one evening, Maya witnesses the slaying of her father at the hands and sword of the Ronin. In the present day, Maya stands over Clint Barton and Kate Bishop to interrogate them about Ronin as she seeks revenge for her murdered father. Clint manages to free himself and fend off Maya and the Tracksuit Mafia, though Maya breaks his hearing aid in the process. Freeing Kate Bishop, they escape the warehouse, but are pursued in their stolen saloon car by Maya, her second-in-command Kazi, and the rest of the Tracksuit Mafia. With the help of many trick arrows, they manage to escape their pursuers and get back to their safe house. Clint gets his hearing aid fixed, they manage to walk the dog, now christened Pizza Dog, and both look to learn more about the Tracksuit Mafia, as well as her soon-to-be stepfather, Jack Duquesne. Kate brings Clint back to her mother's penthouse where she attempts to access the criminal database of her mother's company, Bishop Securities. However, Kate is locked out of the system as she attempts to bypass the encryption, while Clint hears a noise elsewhere in the apartment. As he goes to investigate, he encounters the sharp end of Jack Duquesne as he holds the Ronin sword to Clint's throat.
A very sharp ending to this episode.
It very much is, yes.
Excellent stuff. Yeah, but this really felt like one of the shortest episodes of the season so far. We just got to the end, rolled credits, and going, wow, I was expecting about another 10 minutes.
Yes, exactly. I literally thought I had fallen asleep or I blinked and lost 10 minutes of my life. I was like, it was over and I was like, oh, wow, okay. That was concise, to the point.
Yeah. It means
Fine.
it's tracking along at a pace. Do you know what's also really getting to me during this season? My closest friend from childhood, from when I was 5 years old, is called Ronan. So it's really confusing in the episode where everybody's talking about Ronan has returned and Ronan has come back. And I'm going, why are they concerned about Ronan coming back?
He never left.
He's a nice guy. He wouldn't be after your businesses. Anyway, shall we get into our arrow points for this episode?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Let's get on with it. Let's kick off with arrow point 1, unsurprisingly. Who is Maya Lopez?
Yeah, we learned lots about Maya Lopez in this episode, don't we?
This was fantastic for me because we do know it has been essentially confirmed that we are getting an Echo TV show on Disney Plus. So I wasn't sure how we knew that Echo, the character, was coming in this season of Hawkeye. We did know that this was happening. A lot of people were like, oh, okay, it's going to be a one-off. She'll be in it for one episode and then gone. We won't get much of her origin. It'll all be explored in her own show. They basically put that to bed by opening with her origin.
Yeah.
And I really want to put out a huge, a kind of hot tip to Disney at this point in time, Marvel, and especially the Marvel Cinematic Universe, for the accessibility kind of bits they're doing here, where similar to the Eternals, they have deaf actresses playing deaf characters who are then, like, they're using ASL that they've known for years. It's real ASL. It's real American Sign Language that they're using, that they're doing. It's not kind of phoned in by the looks of things. But I think it's just really interesting to see that, like, they are fully kind of going into this, and it wasn't, how do we put it? It was very well, in my opinion, well represented. Like, of course, I would love to hear from someone else what they think, if they are deaf and they use American Sign Language, they think it's a good representation. So we do know that the representation, in feedback wise, the representation in the Eternals was well received and thought very highly of. With Makari, we do know that it's just really well done there. So I think, in my opinion, was done just really well here.
Absolutely. And not just done well here. The introduction of this character of Echo as such a great introduction to the character.
Definitely.
The character's been around for, I think, about 10 years from back in Daredevil
Marvel
days.
Knights.
So it's a character that's been around for a while. Now, not all time, not like 50, 60 years, but has been around and has got a good history in the comic books. And it makes me really excited to see more of her. Akila Cox is doing a great job in this role. And I think this gives you a good base of knowledge of who the character is. There'll be more in the show. Obviously, this isn't going to be a one-off. We will see her again in Hawkeye. But I'm really excited for her own show as well. So they've accomplished a really great job.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, I think having the representation in here is fantastic. Mm-hmm. Not only that, it's being integrated really well into the story, and also with effectively bringing out the hearing impairment that also Hawkeye has. So the two of these characters, it integrates into the story really well and is meaningful. And I think that's amazing. And the same for this flashback. I think the writers here, Katrina Mathewson and Tanner Bean, I thought this flashback was just, again, perfect. I've said that a few times about flashbacks recently because it added so much really quickly to Maya Lopez as this character, and growing up. But it made the interrogation that she does with Clint and Kate really meaningful. Like, I kind of just thought she was going to come out and interrogate them. But having that just added this new depth to that interrogation, because you knew how meaningful it was to Maya to get to the bottom of who is Ronin. Where did you get that suit? Where's the sword? Because in the flashback, we see a really supportive father, helping her with her hearing impairment, but also this idea of having to jump between two worlds like dragons, explaining it to his child who's deaf, because she's not at a school for the deaf or the hearing impaired. And that, he encourages her that you must, walk these two worlds, so that you can watch and feel your surroundings, so you can operate in a verbal environment. And you see that with the karate, sort of part of that, where she's watching the feet of the karate, combatants. So when she gets up there, she knows their moves.
Yeah.
And then seeing the death at the hands of Ronan, or who we think is Ronan,
or at least someone in the Ronan outfit.
Or someone in the Ronan outfit, that, effectively running through with the sword her father. So it just was, this to me was great. I really, it just pulled me in. I mean, I wasn't expecting the flashback, and it was just really sort of concisely, meaningfully done, and then added so much to this character in the present day. And I thought that was excellent.
Even just a little touch of that conversation with her father, where she's asking why isn't she able to go to a school with everybody like her. I thought we could afford it, basically. And instantly you're told that he's someone that doesn't have the money to do it, so he'll do anything for his child. So you get that he may have gone down a path, and just in those opening moments, he may have gone down a path to serve his family, to get more money, and potentially down this dark path that led him in the crosshairs of Ronan. All of that told within, one line of dialogue and one line of storytelling between these two characters. Very cool. You referenced already there is a connection there with Shang-Chi, which we've seen recently. Really interesting that you're watching a show like Hawkeye now, a movie like Shang-Chi a couple of months ago that does announce that there are dragons in the MCU. And he even refers to it in the correct way. She asks, do dragons exist? And he says, no, they're in a different plane of existence, effectively. So almost exactly the way it's introduced to us in Shang-Chi. So I love that, watching with that in the back of your mind, that he is explaining dragons the correct way to his daughter. Not, they don't exist. They're just not on this plane of existence.
And what happens if they come here? They get more powerful. I was like, ooh, interesting. I really enjoyed this. They're tweaking the power set of Echo as a character slightly, in that it's similar, but in the comic books, she is has a photographic muscle memory, essentially very much like Taskmaster in who we saw in Black Widow.
Yeah.
In the comic books, she sees someone do something once and she can repeat it.
Right.
But there isn't any limit. So if she can watch, for example, she could watch Captain America and Black Widow and Hawkeye on a video, and then when she was fighting one of them, she could easily switch between all.
Right.
Like, she just never loses that muscle memory. So she basically is, like, if you paired her with Shang-Chi, she would be Shang-Chi plus every other person she's ever seen.
Right.
Really interesting comic book kind of origin. We get told there, like, her dad was running the tracksuits. He was leading that crew. But there was a person above him. He had a boss, and his boss was named Uncle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the way you would with your kid, it's usually, an uncle could be anything. It could be a blood relative, and it could be someone that's just in your life. Likely this person just in their life. Look, everybody's been talking about it since the episode came out. Don't think we need to pussyfoot around
Not
what
at
it could
all.
possibly be. Suspicion here is that this is Wilson Fisk, played by Vincent D'Onofrio, who played Wilson Fisk in Daredevil, right?
Yes.
We don't see him on screen. The camera angle with a small child, it could easily be just that the camera angle made it look like the person in a suit behind her was much bigger than they were. And in my mind, all I could just connect this back to, I said it to the guys just before recording, all I could connect this back to was the thoughts of Mephisto on WandaVision, and the creators of the show going, whoa, how did people jump to that conclusion? And people expecting something as big a reveal as Mephisto happening on the show WandaVision, and suddenly the showrunners were going, whoa, this is not what we meant at all. Or as big a reveal as the X-Men were suddenly in the Marvel universe again on WandaVision. This happened multiple times, and I'm going, right, if they haven't revealed the face on screen, maybe this is just Jacques Duquesne, and that's supposed to be the big reveal for the show, is that her uncle is also possibly the father of Kate Bishop. And I'm going, but that voice, we covered every single episode of Daredevil, and that little laugh that the character does as he rubs the cheek of Maya really does sound like Vincent D'Onofrio.
It really, really does. I mean, as soon as that happened, and you're right, I know there's the false perspective of being next to a small child, but the whole element of it, I was just, is that Wilson Fisk? Yeah. I wasn't even thinking it was Vincent D'Onofrio, to be honest.
Okay.
It could be, but it just felt like that. Just the swagger of just seeing the hand do it. I mean, in a sense, it's like Chris saying about the photographic muscle memory of Maya from the comics. I feel like because we did 3 seasons of Daredevil, I feel like I've got a photographic memory of the ins and outs, the little things that Vincent D'Onofrio did as Wilson Fisk in those 3 seasons. And it was my first go-to. Yeah. And you're right, it could simply be Jack Duquesne or another sort of high-level boss man of any of the gangs that are represented in any of the street level heroes of New York in Marvel. So it's not necessarily that, but gosh, I like to dream at that moment when I saw it.
But just, can you imagine if it wasn't? Can you imagine them sitting back when people watch the episode going, "Oh no, that's not what we want"?
It's Ralph Boner all over again.
Yes.
Yeah, but for me, I've gone through multiple stages over the last 24 hours as we've recorded, since we've watched this and as we're recording. I've gone through, that's Vincent D'Onofrio. It has to be, I'm pretty sure, it looks like his hand and it sounds like him, to, oh my god, that's supposed to be Kingpin, but I think they've recast. And imagine if they recast Charlie Cox as well as Matt Murdock. And there's going to be hell to pay. What? Oh my god. Like, no way they're going to do that. No. It has to be Charlie Cox coming in Spider-Man, and it's going to be Vincent D'Onofrio in this. And then I went, no, hold on. These are all rumors. This is what we all want. There are many other heads of the family of kind of like the crime, organized crime in New York that Spider-Man faces, that like there's Tombstone. And I'm like, oh, okay. They could have easily gone, we can't use Kingpin anymore for now. We can need someone else. We go Tombstone. We go The Owl. We go all these others who also have monikers around being the head of a family, uncle,
exactly.
all of this. Yeah. It's because in the comic books, Maya is related or has a relationship with Wilson Fisk, aka the Kingpin in the comic book. So that's why everyone's making this huge jump again.
Oh, but it also looks like him. And people know that Disney are not going to throw away the opportunity. If Vincent D'Onofrio wanted to come back and play the role of Kingpin and they offered it to him, I would say Disney would jump at the chance to make to bring back an actor of that caliber into the MCU, playing a role that is so consistently said as one of the greatest villain roles in all of the MCU, not just movies or TV or any kind of caveat that's put on that. He is consistently said as one of the best actors that has been in the MCU, especially in a villain role. If you have the opportunity to bring him back, you bring him back. Yeah. But all it just kept going through my head. It's genuinely not that I don't think it is. All that was going through my head was, what if it's not?
Exactly.
Look, it could be Nirvana. It could be Geekageddon, depending on how it is. But the uncle will most likely, is going to be revealed.
Yeah.
And we'll just have to see which way it goes. But it's such like good stuff to have the theory and the intrigue around Wilson Fisk. Just to finish off this first Arrow point, we see this interrogation, and there is a nice moment where Clint, we're covering Wheel of Time at the moment, where Clint kind of acts a bit like an Aes Sedai, where he doesn't give a lie, but he doesn't exactly tell the truth, where he tells Maya that Ronan was killed by Black Widow, and he was there to witness it. So he killed him off, metaphorically speaking, and it was because of the Black Widow. But of course, Black Widow is now dead, and so is Ronan, if that is true. So they don't really believe him. It's still very much that Maya is, pretty suspicious of these two. Yeah. I did like the fact that they were bound as well to the fairground rides. Again, I think Clint Barton's just sort of deadpan, sort of grown-up guy, not really sort of too in on the humor. I just thought it was, again, really, really good stuff.
Yeah, he does have a great fun gag with just with the fact we are talking about him with hearing loss and her as a deaf character knowing ASL. She comes in knowing that he can't hear her, speaks in a small bit of ASL to him, and he recognizes what she's saying and speaks back to her in ASL, and then she goes for a big complicated sentence and he signs back to her more cookie, please, thank you. Hearing impaired, not deaf. So he's not as up to speed as her. So I love that they did that transition. And again, these levels that they're talking about in the show that are all respectful, but also able to find comedy in the situation as well.
Yeah,
really
well,
good.
the other bit of that is when Maya says you rely too much on technology, and it's like, I have a bow and arrow as my primary weapon. I'm not Iron Man. So, again, really good humor throughout this. But speaking of being bound and ultimately escaping, let's move on to our arrow point 2 with the Hawkeye and Kate Bishop escape. I think there are some fantastic in this whole sequence, from escaping the warehouse to escaping the chase in the cars. There are some fine bow and arrow shots and cuts here. I really, really liked, whether it is him releasing the binds of Kate Bishop and also grazing Kazi's cheek, to all the trick arrows that you could possibly dream of. It is really, really good. And I mean, I really loved just the whole action comedy of this entire episode, but in particular around the escape and the chase. I just thought it was so on point, so good. It all just linked in really nicely.
Absolutely, but I don't want to undersell how amazing the drive away one shot is. That's one thing I really want to highlight. We can go into all the trick arrows and go into all the fighting and the go through step by step of everything that went on in the scene. But what might get lost is how amazing that drive away sequence that goes on for minutes on end, from the moment they open the door, get into the car, and the camera is spinning round, watching everything go on around them, traffic coming towards them in different directions. You're looking like cars are missing them by millimeters on all sides. I think it's absolutely magnificently shot. It's so good. Reminds me of one of the greatest moments in cinema of all time, the Children of Men sequence, where exactly the same footage is happening. They're filming all sides of an attack that's coming around them. This is the only time I've seen that done in a similar way on screen since that was done, and it was done so well. Well done.
I'm going to agree to a point. There was one part where it looks like there was a slight pickup on Haley as Kate when she's sitting outside the car, and it look basically it you can see it's green screened and they just obviously they wanted to get her to re-say something or do something. They're not going to put her in that. They're not going to reshoot that whole sequence again. So it just, you can see that one camera shot is superimposed on a moving screen kind of thing. And it just looks slightly, you could see that she wasn't there. Now,
the one shot actually finishes before Kate puts her head outside the car. The one shot is them escaping and the trucks going around them. And then there is a cut. There's a massive cut when Kate comes outside the car with her bow and arrow, because of course,
they're not going to put her in
given
danger.
That's the main actress of the show, they're not going to put her in enough danger to put her on the streets. But it's more about the traffic coming towards them, the traffic surrounding them from the moment they get into the car, from the moment they leave the warehouse until that point. But just that in itself is fascinating and amazing to watch.
Yeah, no, I absolutely loved it. I still wish they had used the cherry car. Because that is ripped straight from the comic book, the Matt Fraction's comic book.
The 72 Challenger.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it looks, and the reason I think all of the cherry car is the issue is called Cherry, which is where this car chase comes from, and this kind of bit comes from, where essentially they're being chased by the tracksuit mafia or the tracksuit vampires in the comic books, and all the trick shot arrows and all that sort of things happen from the comic books, and they're just in that Dodge Challenger. But yeah,
although I do love the joke of it, that it ends off with Clint looking back at the car going, "Oh, I got destroyed anyway."
Exactly.
I could have had the whole scene with this car, but I didn't.
Yeah.
Let's talk about some of the action sequences then. We're not going to go play by play. That was a joke of mine earlier on. We're not going to go play by play through it. You've all seen it. You know how good the scene was. But some of the things that happened, some of the moments that happened in there. One that I'll call out is just the use of the USB arrow right at the end, just because it was one of the biggest moments in Avengers history for Clint Barton when he used that USB arrow to take down a SHIELD helicarrier. I love how absolutely useless it is now in another situation. It's just a great joke because he has so many different types of arrows in that quiver of his. You know, he has an arrow for all occasions, but can every arrow be used in every occasion? Of course not. So I like the gag of that. That was really good to call right back to his history to Avengers 1. So that was cool.
Well, speaking of callbacks, I like that they used the suction cup arrow twice. The first one they get into the windows, that was useless.
Yeah.
And then the second one, it actually saves their life at the end of the chase. Because they use it to get on the train. I was like, no, I like that. Well done.
Exactly as Kate says. Now I see the use of that arrow. Yes.
Yes. Overall, I loved this. This was so much fun. I like the little bits of humor that they just put back in. Like when he runs over Santa, he goes, "Oh my God, sorry, Santa." And you're like, yeah. And then pulling.
And of course it pops back up because it's an inflatable wavy arm Santa. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's it. I mean, it's also like Kate saying there are 4 more arrows more dangerous than this one as she uses the explosive arrow, and which was just superb. I loved as well just the Hawkeye signature twist and swing move that is now both Clint and Kate, as they use the grapple arrow with the line to sort of swing under and onto the top of the train.
So cool.
That was good. I just loved that. Yeah,
really cool. And again, I love that his hearing loss plays part in the whole buddy cop element of this as well.
Yeah.
You know, he had the hearing aid stepped on. There is that moment he's trying to get her to drive the car and can't hear a word that Kate's saying to him. So that plays into it. I love that they repeat each other's words to each other, and Kate's going, "Look, we're communicating. That's exactly what I said." You know, so I like that they've built it in as part of their relationship. I thought that was really cool. But let's talk about the big one.
The really big one.
Yes, because it's another big callback. There is a connection between Ant-Man and Hawkeye, right back to Civil War, when Ant-Man joined the Avengers for that big battle, effectively. And we had a great scene from comic books in that movie where Clint fires a tiny Scott Lang using the pin particles, tiny Scott Lang, at his opponent. So, that's the connection between the two. So he's fully aware of the pin particles, obviously used them in Endgame as well. And here he uses the pin particles to create a massive weapon that destroys half of a bridge to take out the vehicle that's chasing them down. Like, how cool is that? You know, again, if you want to connect your MCU TV shows to your movies, do things like this.
Definitely.
Oh, 100%. Because it's like, it just, for the small amount of work, well, okay, say small, I don't mean to kind of belittle anyone's amount of kind of CGI work, because it is huge amounts of work, but I meant for the small amount in the overall scheme of things of just getting the arrow down, and it's huge to kind of just, everyone was like, oh, like it was that oh my God moment. They actually did it.
I love that you're saying about people with the small amount of CGI work. I've seen some of your PowerPoint presentations, Chris. You couldn't do this in a million weeks of Sundays.
It's true. I really couldn't. Mine would have just been like, and here's something we made earlier.
I've drawn this on a piece of paper and I'm going to throw it on the screen.
Yes, exactly. Welcome to my sketch while I was having coffee.
Anything else from the Hawkeye escape that you guys want to talk about?
The final bit is just on the train. The very fun moment where she's having all this conversation he still can't hear, and then he just rabbits it back about like probably should take Lucky for a walk. I just absolutely enjoyed the hell out of this. It was just, it's for such like the thing I'm starting to really enjoy about this series is the really good action. Like, oh my God, that action sequence in the warehouse, for example, is just fantastic. But then it's just cut so beautifully with kind of these just moments of humor that don't last too long, that don't overstay their welcome, but are just perfectly delivered and then moving on.
Absolutely.
I actually think this episode gets the balance
Yes.
perfect.
Nailed it
for me.
Yeah, nailed it. Because it's not just humor in that scene. There is also a moment there where, unprovoked, Clint says, "You remember you said that you're one of the greatest archers. You know what? You might actually be." Like, that's the biggest compliment that Clint has paid to her. He's kind of talked about her as being some 9-year-old earlier on in this episode. Someone useless, someone to just be ignored. And now he's saying to her, "You must be one of the world's greatest archers." This is her hero telling her that she stands alongside him as one of the greatest archers in the world. It's a massive moment, and you can tell how much it means to her on her face. I think it's fantastically put together as a scene.
Yeah, definitely. But let us fly on to arrow point 3, the investigation of Bishop Securities.
Yes. Yeah, we kind of talked about it a little bit in point number 1 about the person in the Ronin outfit who killed Maya's father and his group at the time. And this is where the question throws in. Was it Clint that did that because Clint was on a mission to take out everybody, or is there somebody else that could possibly have been? And if you think back to episode 1, we had the Duquesne family, effectively. We had Armand Duquesne and we had Jacques Duquesne battling over the Ronin sword. For some reason, the two of them seem to be going up and up and up on their bids to get access to this sword. Seemed massively important to both of them. We see in the end of this episode, Jacques obviously has the sword and is using the sword, but would they have been involved potentially as the Duquesne family, the people that were using Ronin to take out some enemies of theirs? Were they masking themselves to hide their true intentions? Are they possibly behind this attack on Maya's family?
Yeah. Is it something to do with Eleanor Bishop even? You know, there is that conversation with Armand III and him saying, "You're involved with some really nasty people."
Yeah, we're definitely all aligned though. We're 3 episodes in. We're definitely thinking that Eleanor Bishop is the secret bad guy not hitting very well in the background in the show, right?
Yeah, who has actually melted into the background now, which probably makes it even more likely.
Yeah, wasn't in the episode, so yeah, definitely likely.
There's a theory going around that she's Madame Masque, that she actually is the character Madame Masque, and she has been for years. And
she's Mephisto, Chris.
Yeah, exactly. So Mephisto confirmed. It's an MM. There you go. I think, I don't know if I agree with the Madame Masque, but I think you're right, Claire. I think she is the big bad for this, where it will be revealed that Jack is, like, she is essentially the new kingpin of kind of, and she's been working with or for Kingpin, Wilson Fisk, or they've been battling against each other and, like, their rival families.
That's potentially
families.
it, yeah. Do you think there's anything in the Duquesne family and why they wanted the Ronin outfit back in the first
No,
episode?
I think it's that they are sword aficionados, and that I think it's that. It's like, hey, if you can get the they wanted the stuff from the Avengers compound, and I think it was just a rivalry between Jacques Duquesne and Almond. Nope.
Armand.
Between Jacques Duquesne and Armand Duquesne. I think it was just a rivalry there between the two of them. Especially because more than likely the Duquesnes are a crime syndicate family. And then you see that Kate's mother has come in and usurped them. We saw them fighting earlier. Yeah. Like, it's that kind of inner turmoil type aspects.
Yeah, maybe. I still am wondering whether I'm kind of on the fence about the Duquesne family overall. I kind of feel like they're going to be the ones that melt in the background and go, "I didn't know any of this. We made our money through burgers in the 70s, and now we just spend our money on swords. We have no idea about any kind
where
of
there's
crimes."
originals.
Yeah.
Where there's originals.
I mean, the interesting thing as well is Clint does have an idea with the tracksuit mafia. He does talk about, a guy at the top you don't want to mess with, and he's looking to grow the organization. Mm-hmm. And it's like, does he know the guy at the top that you don't want to mess with? Or is it he's just saying he knows of the fact that there is a guy at the top and he doesn't know exactly who it is? And that, I guess, would make the difference as to whether it could potentially be Wilson Fisk or whether it is Jack Duquesne or the Duquesne family in some way with Jack and Armand. And maybe they have a disagreement and falling out. So
yeah, I definitely feel that was them setting up. Clint Barton knows exactly who Wilson Fisk is. Kate won't know who it is, so he'll be able to introduce and give the background in a writing way.
Exactly. And they're using then Eleanor's criminal kind of database then to really find out a bit more about the tracksuit mafia and the Russians, honing in primarily on Kazi, who is Mayor's right-hand man at this moment. And we see that he is an employee of Sloan Security, which certainly Clint recognizes. But for me, we'll see what that actually means and how that will lead them down a particular track of investigation.
Yeah, certainly not anything from comic books or the MCU that we've seen before that I'm aware of. But yeah, Clint seems to know somewhere in the recesses of his mind, there is a Sloan Security that he's come across in the past. So, I guess we'll catch up on that next week in episode 4, because we have a clue towards the murder now, right? And he seems all on board with this mission of Kate's, effectively. He seems now to be connecting things together and kind of going, right, I get where you're going with this.
Yeah.
I'll investigate it with you. They're now partnering up. We even see with the idea, with that phone call, effectively from his son Nathaniel, we see that he may not make it home for Christmas, and he's willing to give up his time to work with Kate to deal with this situation effectively, even though it wasn't something of his making and isn't connecting to him now. They're pretty much in the clear, but he's willing to follow it up because of what's happened, because of their own outfit.
Yeah, and we still haven't seen much from the Watch in the last episode and a half.
Well, that's because it's inside Pizza Dog, Chris. I was right on my on first episode, I think.
Well, yeah, and Clint also does make a leap. What if they were there at the auction for something other than the Ronin sword?
Yeah.
So I guess the Watches will tick its way out at some point from the dog, whether it is naturally or through a vet, I guess. So it'll be interesting to see. Definitely that lovely, cute pizza dog, as we can now call him officially, is a ticking time bomb for them.
Maybe we still don't know what that watch is.
Yes, we do. So we basically end on a cliffhanger, lads.
A pointy one.
A sharp one, yeah.
A sharp, pointy one.
It's an interesting one, isn't it? Just because of the beats of how it got there. We have Kate getting locked out of her mother's computer just before Clint is confronted by Jacques with the sword. So we know that she's technically free to leave that computer and interrupt them and get into the fight, which will stop Jack from doing anything that could put Clint in danger. She's definitely right there, right beside them. No problems intervening. So it is a cliffhanger, I suppose, because we still don't know what Jacques all about.
Yes, exactly. And we do, in the comic books, Jacques Duquesne and Clint Barton know each other. So I'm interested to see, is there going to be a similar familiarity or friendship or adversary or kind of something in between? Yeah.
I mean, and the thing is, what Jack does here is not unusual, given he is obviously a proficient swordsperson and there is a randomer potentially in the penthouse.
Yes.
So it makes sense what Jack is doing here. So it could all be above board in that. But the nice thing is that the sword that is to Clint's throat is the Ronin sword, and Clint will be very much aware of that. With that up against it is his throat. So I thought that was really nice touch. The other nice touch I really liked from this was we have the whole thing where Clint hears something, but the noise isn't sort of like the crash of a fruit bowl, or the tumble of something. It's not particularly loud. It's really quite subtle, which also makes that suggestion of Jack being proficient with a sword and with his feet from the fencing test from Kate. It just adds to this guy being quite skilled in a number of different ways. It felt like he definitely was trying not to make a sound and was actually probably successful for most people, but it was Hawkeye.
Exactly.
And I kind of like that.
Yeah.
I like that it wasn't some real
He didn't bash
almost slapstick noise. You know, like you hear sort of the metal bowl crashing onto the tiled floor, and people, oh, what was that? But this was like almost. I was there watching it, going, did I just hear something?
Yeah,
like you would do. And I thought
Almost
that was a really
imperceptible.
kind of nice touch.
Yeah. Maybe you're Hawkeye, John.
I'm Hawkeye.
Yeah.
Great gag in there from Kate Bishop texting texting to Clint going, I'm glad you're not called Hawk Ear. Very good.
Yeah, I think just one other final thing from this point is that conversation with Clint's youngest son, Nathaniel, which I thought was really, it was just really well done and actually really lovely. That hearing aid chat where effectively Kate is helping Clint.
Yeah.
It's kind of increasing that bond between these two, the trust levels. You know, he gives her a thank you afterwards, and you know, he's still dealing with having his hearing aid crushed. It's not been fixed yet, but just the conversation that with the son, because they you know, they've moved on to the movie marathon that you hear from Nathaniel, but he wants his dad home, and his dad. You can, I think, again, Jeremy Renner just plays this just to a T for me. But I love that Nathaniel also says, "I want you home, but I understand if you can't be home," and it just adds that pressure, even though he's trying to relieve it to Clint, and it all being communicated through Kate writing down what he says. So I thought this was just kind of a nice, lovely touch, really.
Yeah, it was really nice, wasn't it?
Do we think that Clint will get back home for Christmas?
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. There'll be Christmas dinner at the dinner table with Kate Bishop as a new member of the Barton family. Since she's losing her own family, she might as well go and join the Barton family, right? So I think that would make total sense. So kind of setting that up right here. But I thought it was lovely. And again, we always use subtitles when we're watching these episodes to make sure we pick up everything. I thought it was lovely that there were little extra touches in the subtitles. You see what Nathaniel's actually saying on the phone. So for example, Clint's saying, "You're the early bird. You're up before everybody else. Go read a book." And Nathaniel's going, "Who would read a book? Why would I read a book? That's boring." You know, he's trying to relieve his boredom. So I thought that was a little funny touch that you were able to see the full conversation as well. So, but yeah, lovely touching scene, you know, as you say, John, that moment where, Clint is saying to him, "I promise you, I will definitely be back before Christmas." And his son's going to him, "Don't worry, Dad. I know you've got other important things to do," kind of thing. You don't have to be home for Christmas, which is, Clint knows his son has been so used to him not being present because he's been the hero going out with the Avengers all the time, but he wants to prove it to him he can make it home this Christmas. Perfect Christmas movie fodder, right?
Absolutely bang on the money for that one. But I think that is arrow point 3. Let us move on to our notes. Anyone have any notes?
Yeah, we have to talk about the Hawkeye suit, don't we? We have to talk about the perfect drawing that Kate does of the Hawkeye suit from the comic books.
It was brilliant.
When she proposes the new costume for the rebranded Hawkeye, right? I thought that was really cute.
Yeah.
I absolutely loved it. It was just the best, and it had all of the aspects in it.
Yeah.
I actually did think she was going to be the one that came up with the current kind of more Matt Fraction view on it.
Yeah.
I thought that's what they were going, and when I just saw the massive H and stuff, I was, chef's kiss.
And she probably will be the one that will talk him into getting the Matt Fraction version, let's say, or the David Ayer version of the.
David Ayer. Yes, I should say that. Yes.
Yeah, but I love the gag of, what are those things on my head? Well, they're wings, like a hawk, that'll go over your eyes because you're Hawkeye. And the H there, that's for Hawkeye as well, because you need your branding. Yeah, great fun. We've seen that now in each of the series so far on Disney Plus, that they've found a way to incorporate the original costume from comic books into each of the storylines.
Yeah.
So this was their way here. I love it because you can clearly tell that Jeremy Renner was going, "Nope, I am not putting on that costume for a Halloween special episode." Or
they so should have.
I'm not doing it. No way. Right. You can put it in a drawing on a napkin and that'll do.
Well, that's it. It's not happening.
Yeah.
And just his first one, I know he says about my wife will divorce me, and I'm not a role model, but it's just the first one. My job is to be a ghost. Why would I wear purple? I will be seen, from far away in purple, tight-fitting suit. So I just thought that was really, really good. Also, in that whole conversation in the diner, Kate does, guess half right because of Clint's lie, effectively, lie/partial truth or white lie, is that Clint is hiding the identity of Ronan.
Yeah.
Not that he is or was Ronan. Yeah. So again, that's just another little point of reference here.
Mm-hmm. I wonder, is she not making the connection because Ronan is known as being particularly violent?
Yeah.
With his,
I would say
people that he punishes effectively. So she's not making the connection. This couldn't possibly be her role model, her hero that's going out killing people. It must be somebody else in the hero community or in the community that he's trying to protect. So it can't possibly be Clint. I wonder, will there be some repercussions with Kate about if when she finds out that Clint was Ronan? I wonder, will there be something there that she loses some respect for him or something?
Well, I guess that's being teed up with the I'm not a role model, because of that. So yes, that should be expected down the line, I reckon.
Yeah.
He could even lie and just say it was Steve Rogers. Who's gonna, that's the dark ending to the Rogers the Musical.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, exactly.
Any other notes for the episode?
Just some honourable mentions for the non-Doggy approved names that we had: Little Old Caesar, Dogfather, which I loved, and Sir Dog of Pizza.
I think Sir Dog of Pizza.
Which I preferred. Yeah. I think that was just a bit slightly better.
But Pizza Dog is perfect. Lucky the Pizza Dog.
Yes.
Love that too.
Ultimately, Pizza Dog is christened here. Yeah. With a very cute look from the dog as well.
Yeah.
In approval.
But there, we have it. Is that all our notes?
I think so. Any more notes? No? Excellent. Then, with that, did this episode hit the mark? Do you defend Hawkeye Episode 3, Echoes? Chris.
I do. Yes, I really enjoyed this. I defend it wholeheartedly. We talked about it for all the reasons we've gone through. Essentially, it had the perfect blend of action, comedy, story beats, origins, flashbacks, intrigue. Is that Wilson Fisk? Is it someone else? Is it Vincent D'Onofrio? It just was fun. My only complaint, and it's not even a complaint, was it was short, or it felt short. But I actually think that was more that it was just go from the second that it kicked off. So yes, I wholeheartedly defend, approve, and rubber stamp this episode of Hawkeye.
Excellent stuff, Chris. Derek, do you defend episode 3, Echoes?
I absolutely do. Yes, excellent episode. This is nailing. Again, I think I said it last episode. This is exactly what I wanted from the Hawkeye show, and it's doing it every week. But this was a fun adventure with lots of heart and lots of good comedy, lots of great action. It went by really fast, but when you think about it, it's about 34 minutes long, and I think 20 minutes of that is the action sequence in the middle of it. So, hey, why not? If you've got the budget and you've got a character like Hawkeye, you want to show off how interesting a character is and how exciting he can be. Give him a quiver full of trick arrows and show every single one of them doing what it should do, or having a bit of fun with being used for things it shouldn't be used for. Great fun. Really loving the relationship between Haley Steinfeld and Jeremy Renner, and so intrigued by this introduction of Akila Cox as Echo. Really cool. So yes, absolutely defend this episode. John, do you defend Hawkeye episode 3, Echoes?
I certainly do defend this episode. I give it 5 Pym arrows out of 5.
Ooh, nailed it.
Yeah. Straight in the bullseye.
Mm-hmm.
I loved this episode. I thought it was just perfect blend of the action, the comedy, the story, the drama of it. It was just really nice. The trick arrows I loved. I loved the christening of Pizza Dog. I loved the intrigue and the flashback with Maya Lopez, aka Echo, and just how that fitted into that first scene. The intrigue about Uncle K ? And just then the final end scene where we do get to see Clint and Jacques Duquesne in the next episode, I am sure, sort of chat, I guess. I'm not expecting them to fight, but it's just a nice little cliffhanger there. So I loved this episode from start to finish. I think, like as Chris said, it felt really short, but I think it's just because I really enjoyed it. It's like time was operating at a different speed whilst I watched this, shall we say. So 5 Pym arrows out of 5.
And only a week to wait for more.
Exactly. But speaking of Pym, I'm going to suggest that we grab ourselves a nice glass of alcoholic fruit salad with a Pimm's, as in honor of the Pym arrow, as we head to our pub quiz. Fellow defenders, fellow quizzers, question 3 for this episode of Hawkeye. What is the name of the auto repair business where Maya witnesses Ronan killing her father?
That's a blink and you'll miss it one.
Oh, yeah.
Certainly is.
Yeah, but you'll see it. You'll definitely see it if you watch the episode again. John, do you want to give us the question one more time?
Yes. What is the name of the auto repair business where Maya witnesses Ronan killing her father?
Excellent. To enter the pub quiz, all you need to do is send us all 6 answers for the pub quiz. Each question is being asked on each episode. You'll also find them on our website at tvpodcastindustries.com. Just email us to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com by the end of the year with all your answers, and you'll be in with a chance of getting your hands on some Hawkeye goodies.
Yes, indeed you will. But let us head on over to our feedback section. We've got tons of lovely feedback from our fellow defenders this week. And
it's so great to hear from some of our fellow defenders. Again, we mentioned on the first episode this season that a lot of our fellow defenders didn't watch What If, so we haven't heard from some of you since back in July when we were watching Loki. So great to hear some of the wonderful listeners and fellow defenders who've been sending in their thoughts.
Yes. First up, we go to email. For all of you out there, just a quick reminder, you can send it in your thoughts by email to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com. But our first email is from Suzanne Nelson, who says, great to be following along again with you guys. I liked the first 2 episodes a lot better after listening to your podcast and watching them again. I loved Haley Steinfeld in the Pitch Perfect movies 2 and 3, and I think she's hitting a bullseye, with her Kate Bishop portrayal.
Excellent.
I'm all in for the next 4 weeks. Thanks again for your terrific podcast. I'm about to start Wheel of Time only since you're talking about it. Suzanne. Thank you so much, Suzanne, for getting in touch. Really pleased that you're enjoying the episodes. And we're glad we could be a companion piece as well to these episodes and get a few rewatches there for sure. So we're glad to have you on board for the next 4 weeks. And we're also glad that you'll be on board listening to our other podcast that we're looking at the moment as well, which is Wheel of Time.
Absolutely. Welcome back, Suzanne. Good to hear from you. Also back is James Urin over on email. He says, hi team, great to be back. I'm really looking forward to this series, especially as for the first time in ages, I'm watching almost live with you guys. So I might be able to play along with the pub quiz too. My initial thoughts are that I really like the whole tone and street level setting of this show. It reminds me of bygone days of the Defenders podcast, particularly Daredevil, Punisher, and of course, the titular Mrs. Jones. In fact, Hawkeye is probably better suited to the gritty world of the Defenders than the now multiversal Avengers. Although, on that note, I have heard a few rumours that Kingpin might be making an appearance in the show, and if so, it will genuinely make my year. Of all the Avengers, I always felt Jeremy Renner's dry, self-deprecating approach has been underappreciated, a world away from the overconfident, wisecracking Hawkeye of the cartoons and some comics, and never really given an MCU origin story to fully appreciate how he ended up part of this team. I mean, Stephen Amell got the best part of 5 seasons worth of flashbacks to cover his. Clint's whole demeanour, slightly sulky attitude, and actually getting more than 5 lines of dialogue here brings so many interesting aspects to a person who, like say Frank Castle, has no actual superpowers, but in this case fights against literal gods. And whilst the painkillers bit has been done on plenty of other shows in the past, the hearing loss is another interesting new angle, and I'm keen to see how it plays out. A special mention for his reaction during the brilliantly over-the-top "I Could Do This All Day" song, which was only later bettered by his resigned delivery of "I Fought Thanos" during the LARPing. The rest of the cast looks like bringing further fun to the party. I really like Haley in Barely Lethal, where she plays a teenage assassin alongside Nick Fury himself, Samuel L. Jackson, which must have been quite a warm-up for this gig. And her mustachio-twirling stepdad figure seems equally well cast, with plenty to hide. I don't know much about Echo either, although I'm sure there was an Echo in Gotham. But with their own series on the way, it looks like another interesting direction for the show. Having visited New York in December myself, the Shane Black-esque Christmas setting is really exciting, and it is good to have this to look forward to watching over the next few weeks. Let's just hope there is a moment coming up where Kate and Clint find themselves hiding out in an empty apartment and build an array of Home Alone style traps for the fantastically named Tracksuit Mafia. Thanks very much, James. Excellent, James. Good to hear from you. There's so many references so far to some of the classic Christmas movies. I wouldn't be surprised if we have a Nakatomi building in there, as well as a Home Alone style moment at Christmas as well. There was an Echo in Gotham. You are completely correct. At the end of season 5, I think, we had the character that eventually became Gotham's version of Harley Quinn, was also called Echo over there. Well remembered, James.
Yeah.
Wow, I did not remember that.
Yeah, no,
I don't think you got to season 5, but
that's probably why.
interviewed the actress who played her on our Gotham TV podcast.
Yeah, and I think you're right, James, as well about Jeremy Renner's approach to Hawkeye, because certainly in the later MCU movies, with it being so an ensemble piece, like it is unfortunate to say that it can get lost in the twirly hammer and good looks of Thor, or the tech wizardry of Iron Man, or the buttocks of Captain America even. So it's definitely great that he's got this moment in the same way that Black Widow got as well. Yeah. So I think you get to appreciate that character as done by Jeremy Renner so much more. And actually, I think that'll be interesting to just watch the movies again for the nth time, because it might add more for Hawkeye, for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Fingers crossed we get some paint can swinging scenes in our future. Thanks, James.
Never know.
Thanks, James.
Next up, Jerry emailed us on the first 2 episodes to say this. Hey, bros. This was an excellent start to the series. They established Kate Bishop's privilege that she lives in. The New York scene with her father shows who she favors more. Did you guys catch that the actor was de-aged?
Ooh,
I did not. Why would Marvel spend money to de-age this actor? Maybe because we will see him again.
John's theory.
Jerry, yes. A man after my own heart on the theory side, yes.
Yeah. I will die if the swordsman shows up in color correct costume. Pizza Dog ate that watch. Stunt work on this show is top notch. Because this is New York, will we see Netflix characters like a recast of Iron Fist, a Daredevil mention? We know Kingpin is coming. Like the song from Rogers the Musical, I can do this all day. Your bro, Jerry in Niceville. Thank you so much, bro. It was good to have you broing along with us in this brotastic synopsis and question email. I can't put bro in there anymore.
Absolutely, Chris. You've definitely done lots of broing in there.
Yes. Broforce.
Yes. But then Jerry followed it up with an even brotastic, broier email on his thoughts on episode 3. He went on to say, episode 3 was visually stunning, bro. I'm adding the bros in now. Fight coordinator on the show is great, bro. The car chase was Jeff's kiss, bro. Echo's introduction to the MCU is very different from the comics. So who is the Echo's boss? Because this is New York. Who is the boss of that boss? Bro. Kingpin is the top mountain, bro. Pizza Dog still has that watch, bro. The cliffhangers of the show are killing me, bro. Your bro, Jerry in Niceville.
Oh,
You're
Chris.
killing me, bro, with all the bros.
Okay, last time. That's definitely not going to happen again in the future. You were so focused on going through the bros, you missed the quite obvious autocorrect error that's happened in poor Jerry's email. He says the car chase was Jeff's kiss. I presume that might have been Chef's kiss, but might
No.
have autocorrected to Jeff's kiss.
No, so that is a callback to Fat Man Beyond. Sorry, Fat Man Beyond, where it's Kevin Smith and Mark Bernard don't go Chef's kiss, they go Jeff's kiss.
Okay.
There you go.
Excellent
Well, I'm
stuff.
assuming that's what it is.
Well done.
Yes.
Thanks for catching that, Chris.
Yes, that's what I'm here for, bro.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Jerry. Great to hear your thoughts on the episodes.
Yeah, great stuff, Jerry. Really, yeah, great stuff, Jerry. Thanks for your feedback. Warren Cobb says, hello, everyone. First time listener, and I loved your discussion of the first 2 episodes of Hawkeye. I wanted to make a quick note about episode 1. Kate did not simply pull the name Gary out of thin air when confronted by the waiter. If you go back and watch carefully, right at the 28-minute mark, she overhears kitchen staff telling a waiter that Gary wants you to bring these down right away. Just a really cool little detail that highlights Kate's awareness and ability to use her surroundings to her advantage. Sincerely, Warren. Thanks, Warren, and welcome to the feedback section with your email in. Really good to get your thoughts. Yeah. And I think you're right. It's the subtlety of some of these elements are really good.
Yeah, it went completely over our head. We thought it was just a joke. Did. That she called out a guy called Gary, and then suddenly Gary would appear. But no, that's a much better catch for the character. Probably not as funny as we thought it was then.
No, but like with the surroundings as well. I mean, in episode 3, we see her using the shopping trolley, which was pretty cool in the warehouse, and swinging round one of the supporting poles in the warehouse as well. So she's certainly good with her surroundings as well.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much, Warren, for the feedback.
Absolutely. Thanks, Warren. Parthenia Locklear has sent us an email on Hawkeye. She says, hey there, everyone, and season's greetings. I have really been enjoying this series so far. I'm grateful that they released the first 2 episodes during the Thanksgiving holiday season because of this, I was able to watch it with my 12-year-old daughter. She was more than likely to watch the rest of them on her own due to her grueling schedule. As we watched the montage of Kate's training, I didn't have a second thought about it. I knew that this was Marvel's way of explaining and fast-forwarding through her life and training without having to film it. But it made my daughter a non-believer in the show. She wanted to know how it was possible for Kate to be so good at gymnastics, martial arts, archery, and school. I told her she probably worked really hard because she had a goal. She thought about it for a while and said, yes, Mom, but how does she have the time? This stumped me because I realized she was asking this question in regards to her own life. My daughter is a high-level competitive gymnast training up to 24 hours a week, year-round, and probably only has time for one other activity besides her schoolwork. She also attends school at her training facility. To make things a bit more convenient, the only answer I could come up with was, well, they're apparently rich. And it's just TV. It's just not that deep. You'll just have to roll with it. It was a funny moment for both of us. Excellent, Parthenia. That's really interesting, isn't it? You can imagine your poor daughter going, you're not going to make me do 3 more things. I don't have any time to breathe every week.
Yeah, exactly.
How could I possibly become this character? Really good.
But you could have your own Kate Bishop if you just get her to try harder.
Yeah, it's amazing what being hugely wealthy and, of course, being wealthy on TV can do for your resume, I guess.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think the only way I could get that high level is if I was in the Matrix and they were just programming it into my brain. Parthenia continues, does Barton wear a hearing aid in both ears or just the one? It seems as though he couldn't really hear well without the one. So is he deaf in one ear and partially in the other? He's certainly been through enough to be deaf in both. I love the Pym arrow in this episode. I thought it was really cool. How does he know which arrow is which without looking? Although I live in North Carolina now, I grew up in New York City, and that train scene for me was epic simply because someone is sitting right next to them, clearly in a deep sleep. So you can see their heads swaying back and forth. If you've ever taken a train ride in the city, you know that eventually everyone is fast asleep at some point. As a parent watching Martin on the phone with his son, reassuring him that he would be home for Christmas, I thought that was a really touching scene because you truly hate to disappoint your children, especially the younger ones. His acting was spot on for that scene. He really showed that gut-wrenching pain. Lastly, Jack being the bad guy feels a bit of an obvious one to me. I don't know much about his alter ego character, but it's playing out a bit too obvious that he killed his uncle, unless that's the point. I still think the mother might be the villain. Time will tell. Great episode. It just felt really short. Thanks, guys. I always have a great time listening to you, and I am here for Hawkeye and Wheel of Time. Parthenia.
Thank you so much, Parthenia, and we're glad to have you here. And yeah, it seemed everyone's like, this was a short episode. We're feeling it. Come on, Marvel, give us that 2-hour long episode next time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thanks so much, Parthenia. Definitely can connect in with falling asleep on the subway.
Yes.
It's that heat. The rhythmic sort of movement of the metro, and
Yes.
then gradually the eyes get a little bit heavier. And certainly if, I guess, like myself, if I have had a few drinks, then I am probably out for the count.
We have an ongoing WhatsApp group amongst John's friends where they send photographs of him asleep on the train home and trams home and buses home from Night's Edge. So, yes, this is definitely a trait of Mr. Harrison.
Yes.
How does he know which arrow he's looking at? You were asking, Parthenia. That's just Hawkeye, right? He's got experience at all of the arrows. He's put them all in there himself. He knows exactly where everything is. I guess it's like very quickly going through a set of golf clubs. As long as you're putting back in the same position, you know exactly where the golf club is, right? That you want to use, for hitting that ball on the golf course. That's the extent of my golf knowledge. I will now retire my golf personality for
Thank you. Thank you very much. Next up, we have some thoughts on episode 3 from Victor Von Doom. He had this to say: Hail Derek, John and Chris and fellow defenders. I must say I loved the opening scenes featuring young Maya. The appearance of adult Maya Echo was very impressive. Despite being deaf, Aliqua Cox's acting debut was awesome. The tracksuit mafia is a total joke with guns. Even Maya agreed with Kazi that they are idiots. Who is Uncle? Wilson Fisk or Jack? I warned you about Tony D's appearance as Jack last week. I've yet to see him as other than a dangerous villain. I believe he is filling the role of the swordsman who mentored young Cliff Barton in the comics. This will probably not be the story here, but beware. Kate's first attempt at a costume for Hawkeye was a nice throwback to the comics. I absolutely loved the ending theme song by Sammy Davis Jr. I've not heard it in years. As always, looking forward to your podcast and wonderful Defenders feedback. Excelsior, Victor Von Doom.
Thanks so much, Victor. Yeah, really good to hear your thoughts. I do wonder if the actor was cast in the role of Jack because he's played a villainous role or a duplicitous role in two other high profile shows. I wonder if that's the reason, and he's just going to end off being a house husband who doesn't realize what the heck's going on around him.
Yeah, that would be so good.
Yeah, thanks, Victor, for the feedback, and Excelsior right back as well. Finally, on email, Coffee and Vodka says, Greetings, paternal defenders. Loki remains my favourite of the Disney Marvel series, and third overall after the first seasons of Daredevil and Jessica Jones. If the rest of this series is as good as this episode, however, there may be a new number 1. The contrast between the "what havoc will this arrow bring" car chase and heartfelt phone conversation of Clint and Nathaniel filtered through Kate, his trainee and impromptu surrogate daughter, was masterfully emotionally charged. This father-child theme was woven throughout the episode, tying all the characters together into something as unavoidable and effective as the best of Netflix Marvel productions. Uncle Wilson was even there as a neatly affixed bow to this present of a premise. Too many comic book references to mention without making this a 2-page email, though Maya's facial handprint and Hawkeye's classic costume deserve special mentions. Although I'm disappointed that Maya's father's killing was retconned, the rest of this episode was perfect, up to and including Clint facing the wrong end of his own sword. 5 sweet gingerbread men out of 5. Greatly enjoying your commentary. Thanks for all you do. Take care and peace. Coffee and Vodka. As always, Coffee and Vodka, thank you so much for the email. Always good to get your out of 5s, and great to see that, like myself, giving it a sweet 5 out of 5. And this was really a greatly balanced, perfect episode for me as well. As that change between the action, the comedy between Kate and Clint, along with the different elements of drama here, was superb. So yeah, great to get your thoughts on this episode.
Yeah, thanks, Coffee and Vodka. And I do agree that the handprint for Maya, the facial, obviously having the blood there, mimicking what the white handprint that she had in the comic books, was really nice touch.
Absolutely, yeah, great to hear from you, Coffee and Vodka. Great to hear your thoughts. Not sure about your assertion that something was retconned from the comics. We haven't really seen enough in this episode to say it has been retconned yet. Let's see what plays out in the other 3 episodes.
Yes, exactly.
That's what I'd say. Not to put doubt on what you've said, but
yes. Let's wait and see until the end of episode 6. We have 3 more episodes to go. Nearly 3 hours of content to tell us the rest of the story. But, gentlemen, let's head on over to Facebook now for some feedback, where we have a bit of feedback on episodes 1 and 2 from Jamie Lawton, who had this to say. I've only seen episode 1 and 2 so far, and only halfway through the first podcast, so forgive me if it's already been mentioned. But when I saw Eleanor in her red dress, and the scene was also shot in front of a portrait of who I suspect was her in red, I got huge Elektra's vibes.
Ooh, interesting. That was not mentioned.
No, you're the first one to bring that up.
We think she's villainous, but maybe somebody else is coming over from Daredevil.
Oh yeah, that'll be a good one.
I like that. Thanks so much for that. We've also got some feedback in from Trevor Green, who says, I felt like it had just started and then it was over. I was happy to see Zahn McClarnon in the role of Maya's father and was heartbroken to see him die in front of his daughter at the hands of the Ronin, which made me wonder at what level of involvement in organised crime does somebody deserve to be murdered, and does Clint have any regrets or guilt about being the Ronin? There was a DiCaprio pointing at the screen moment when Maya's uncle was there to take her home from martial arts. Will we see more of Uncle? The short exchange between Kate and Clint on the train, where Clint agreed that she was a top archer and then repeated what she had said moments before without realising, was cute and something I could easily imagine in comic panels. I'm sure there were Easter eggs in some of the names that came up while Kate was getting info from her mother's computer, but nothing that I could recognise. Finally, I agree that Eleanor is shady, possibly even big bad level, and I think Jack's sketchiness may be a misdirection of the show. The Battle of New York in 2012 would have been an excellent opportunity for Kate's father to fake his death to claim life insurance. Perhaps this is the lie that Eleanor's empire is built on. More support for your theory, John?
Yep.
Yeah, and of course what Jerry mentioned earlier as well. Certainly I hadn't spotted the de-aging side of that. So again, that would be a kind of a neat little technical confirmation that something is amiss here with Derek.
Yeah.
Yep.
Not you.
Not
him.
me, him. That's right.
The other thing I will just quickly say, in terms of some of the Easter eggs for the names, a few crew members I think have been called out so far. So I think that's 1 or 2 majority of the big names. I think the big one is Sloan Inc., Sloan Limited, the one everyone's kind of questioning.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Thanks very much for that, Trevor.
Yeah, thank you so much, Trevor. Donald Dennis says, I haven't watched this episode yet, but I've been thinking about why, even though Hawkeye is very well made, it just isn't grabbing me. I expect a lot of this will be addressed in episode 3, so this is only about episodes 1 and 2. First, perhaps I'd care more with a different actor, perhaps. Maybe he just never really clicked for me in this role. But there were several other reasons this show didn't excite me as much as the other Marvel shows. Slow burn, no direction, no bad guys or mystery worth caring about. Felt like a Hallmark movie in spots, which isn't necessarily bad, just not my bag. Also, procedural mysteries have taught me that most murders are solved in 45 minutes. more than that, and the show had better be a wild ride. That said, it was still pretty good, and I'll keep watching. Apparently, it was still good enough that I'd get up early to watch before work. Later, despite the relatively small amount of progress, this episode helps a lot. The opening scene until they ended on the subway was pretty amazing. The trick arrows were fun, the fighting was clever, the banter engaging, and the pacing was strong. Also, Hawkeye uses the ability to lower the gain on his hearing aid the same way my dad does when he wants to mute my mum. It still isn't the top of my list, but I'm liking it more and more. I give episode 3 5 out of 5 trick arrows. Thank you so much, Donald, for the feedback. Really pleased that episode 3 has zoomed some life into this series for you. I think in many respects, my opening sort of discussion around episode 1 on the podcast, there was something there just wasn't clicking, just how it started, things seeming a little obvious maybe. So I'm hoping that rug well and truly gets pulled from under our feet. Yeah. But it's certainly generating an awful lot of discussions and theories about who is the bad guy here and whether we have an Uncle K, for example. So I think there's a great amount of discussion. I think as is evident from all the feedback that we're getting, which is really, really good stuff. So, thanks so much, Donald.
Yeah, thank you, Donald. Next up, we have feedback from Dr. Bob Phillips, who had this to say. Really enjoying the lightness and comedy of the show. The trick arrows were quite brilliant, and I swear there weren't as many in that quiver as it was handed over by Kate as emerged from that car window. Loving the weaving of deaf and hard of hearing stories into this. And I bet the deliberate removal is echoing off so many parents, grandparents of the viewers. Will they get home for Christmas? Will Jack be a red herring? Will Maya turn out to be a savior in the end, doing something heroic when everyone else is incapacitated by noise? Who knows? Thank you, Dr. Bob. Yeah, who knows? Who knows? Will she be the savior? Will she be the savior of Christmas? Will she be the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer?
You never know. You never know. And yes, magic TV quiver, I think, is your answer to your first question.
I think so. I think so. Thanks so much, Dr. Bob.
Absolutely. Thanks, Dr. Bob. Dan Lee says, during the flashback at the beginning, the uncle, that hand and chuckle, please tell me I'm not the only one who gasped. That's got to be Daredevil's Vincent D'Onofrio.
Nah, no idea what you're talking about. Don't think so. Don't think so at all.
Dan, you are not alone.
No, you're not. Claire Payne says, one of the many things I love about this show is how the episodes end. I definitely don't need to be encouraged to return for the next episode, but it certainly makes me want to see what will happen next. Another outstanding episode. Fantastic action, conversation, flashback scenes, and trick arrows. Loved it. Thanks so much, Claire, and a very happy birthday to Claire Payne, whose birthday was on this week.
Whoop whoop, happy birthday!
Absolutely. Happy birthday, Claire. I'm really pleased you're enjoying Hawkeye.
Good birthday present.
Yeah, definitely.
In between the season, you've got your birthday, you've got the holiday season going on as well. That's great.
I'm sensing if Claire did out of 5s with what she said of another outstanding episode, I guess it would be another 5 out of 5. So that's including myself, along with 3 other fellow defenders, it's 4 5 out of 5s, which is pretty good going. And yeah, really good stuff. Thanks so much, Claire. Doug Green says, loved the trick arrows, especially the Pym one. This was my favourite episode so far. Clint recognised that Kate wasn't just some annoying kid, but a capable hero, was great. Yeah. Definitely. Trick arrows, what is not to love about that? I kind of like the putty arrow as well, right at the start, the purple sort of goo.
Oh one. Yeah, I forgot about that one already.
Because it was nice as well in the conversation where Clint saying, fire them at the wheels to slow them down, and she'd already fired it at the windscreen. So, trick arrows really were great, and the Pym one especially.
Thank you, Doug. Finally, we have some feedback from Deanna DeBryan Mascal, who had this to say: "What a devastating opening scene. Master storytelling to make us care so deeply about this antagonist and her vendetta against Ronan. Also, the echoes of this story with both Hawkeye and Kate give it even more emotional impact. I love this warehouse fight scene so much, and I'm not sure Clint's plan would have worked even if Kate hadn't crashed the party. The Arrow fight scene was amazing. Their chemistry continues to be great. The pacing of this episode was also great, and what an ending." Thank you so much, Deanna. Yeah, and we're really not sure why everyone has a vendetta against Derek's friend Ronan. And also, obviously, Ronan as well.
Yeah, we knew the underworld will come back to get him at some point.
Definitely.
Not my friend Ronan again. Thanks so much, Deanna, for your feedback. And thanks to everybody who sent in your feedback for Hawkeye this week. You can get in contact with us by emailing us to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com, or you can join us over in our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/tvpodcastindustries. And we have some spoiler posts up there for each and every episode of each and every show that we've covered across the last 6 years, but more recently, Hawkeye and Wheel of Time.
Yes, big thank you, Deanna, and to all our fellow defenders for your feedback. Really good to get your thoughts. As well as feedback, you can also support us by heading on to any good or evil podcast catcher of your choice. Please subscribe to the podcast, leave a review, rate us, because sharing the podcast is, of course, sharing the love. You can also head on over to tvpodcastindustries.com as well. Other ways to support us: you can support us over on patreon.com/TV Podcast Industries or buymeacoffee.com/TVPI, where you can support us over there. Any which way you lend your support is absolutely fantastic and very much appreciated by the three of us.
Absolutely. As Chris said earlier on, if we made it into your Spotify playlist for the year, share it on social media. It's always cool to see that too, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. But thank you so much for joining us, fellow defenders. We will be back next week with Hawkeye episode 4 and your feedback, of course.
Thank you so much. We'll be back on Saturday at 5 p.m. GMT on the main channels of TV Podcast Industries to discuss the 5th episode of The Wheel of Time, Blood Calls Blood. It's a good one. Mm-hmm. Check out our discussions everywhere you catch our podcasts.
Yeah, and we'll catch you next week for Hawkeye. Speak to you again soon.
Yeah, thank you so much, fellow defenders. As always, a pleasure chit-chatting and discussing all things Hawkeye with you. Remember, keep watching, keep listening, and of course, keep defending. Bye.